Hi lovelies, and welcome back to my channel. So today is the final reading in the month of Black Excellence that I've had on my channel. I just want to say that this has been such an incredible month for me. I know it was due to end in June. It has overlapped a little bit into July just because of what happened with my back and things like that. But I just want to say I have learned so much, and I hope you have as well. If you haven't watched every single one of my readings this month or last month, then I really do recommend going back and just hearing the amazing messages and stories of the incredible Black leaders, philanthropists, men and women who have graced this earth. They have literally left us with such amazing legacies, and there is so much that we can take from their lives. So today we are reading from Nelson Mandela, and his energy is here. It's bright and shining and as bold as ever. So please leave some love for Nelson Mandela down in the comments below. His birthday is actually coming up. It's the 18th of July. So if you want to leave some birthday love down there, then remember to do that as well. Please remember not to skip any ads in any of the readings for the Black Excellence leaders, because all of the money is going towards being donated to a Black Lives Matter cause. So please don't skip any ads. So let's get into reading for Nelson Mandela. So Nelson Mandela was born on the 18th of July 1918, and he passed away on the 5th of December 2013. Nelson Mandela was South Africa's first Black president and the first to be elected in a democratic vote. So prior to his election, Black people couldn't vote, and he won an all-round of 63% of the vote in South Africa. Now, I learnt about this at school, so this has been just jogging my memory of how this all went down. It's a very similar situation to what was going on in the States, and it's just a tragedy. Black people, again, had no rights in South Africa. The AMP, the Afrikaans National Party, basically came into power off the back of their selling point being apartheid. And apartheid basically means in Afrikaans being apart. So their whole unique selling point was that we are going to segregate this country, and people voted for that. People voted for, it's unbelievable, people voted for that segregation. And the Afrikaans government basically put in place a kind of pyramid thing where it was like the top of the class chain and the bottom. And no surprise, as you can see what happened in history, the Black people were put on the bottom. So it was white people first, then I believe it was Indians, then it was what they called coloured, which would be like myself, mixed race, and then at the very bottom, Black people. And that's how they governed their class system. So apartheid was created by the AMP, the Afrikaans National Party. It was used as their unique selling point to win the election, and they won, which is disgusting. And apartheid reigned over South Africa from 1948 until the early 1990s, when Mr. Mandela came into power. The ANC, which was Nelson Mandela's party, was the Africa National Congress. And they basically came into fruition because they were obviously against all of these stupid and disgusting laws that the Afrikaans Party had put into place. Black people had zero rights in South Africa. They couldn't leave the country. They had to carry passes with them wherever they went. They had curfews. They couldn't be out after a certain point at time. They couldn't live in certain areas. Similar to America, they couldn't go into restaurants. They couldn't use the same facilities as white people and all the rest of it. And it was just disgusting. And Nelson Mandela was part of, fighting against that. He was anti-apartheid, and he was an activist in trying to get apartheid demolished. But Mandela was arrested in 1962 and was sentenced to life in prison. He was charged for conspiracy to overthrow the state and for illegally leaving the country. He spent over 27 years in prison, where he was still able to be a part of the movement, but it got so much so that the actual party, the ANC, I believe it was banned. It wasn't allowed to be a thing. People weren't even allowed to take photographs of Nelson Mandela. Like, they were so scared of him and his power. Similar kind of thing to Martin Luther King and Malcolm X. They just tried to basically tear him down, and the conditions that he was left in prison were disgusting. They were put in concrete cells. I have just recently read that black prisoners weren't allowed to wear trousers, they had to wear shorts. Apparently they were just put in such awful conditions where Nelson Mandela wasn't allowed to wear sunglasses, so his eyes got exposed to too much of the bright sunlight that's in South Africa and his eyesight was damaged. You know, they were just disgustingly treated. And after 27 years in prison, there was a new president that came into power in South Africa, and his name was F.W. de Klerk. And he, as part of his coming into power, said that he was going to work to end apartheid and help to free Nelson Mandela. So, Mandela and de Klerk led efforts to negotiate an end to apartheid. It resulted in the 1994 multiracial general election, in which Mandela led to the ANC to victory and became president. F.W. de Klerk and Nelson Mandela also shared a Nobel Peace Prize for ending apartheid in South Africa. So it's an incredible story. That is just a brief overview, but I wanted to give you that in case you didn't learn about it in school, in case you've never heard of apartheid, or you know who Nelson Mandela is but not what he did. And, you know, he has openly said, you know, he made his own mistakes, but he always tried his best. I did forget to mention that part of the ANC's protests were, you know, fighting against the laws that the Afrikaans Party had put in place, so they would basically go out without carrying passes and they would stay out beyond their curfews. But now we have a backstory. Let's hear from the man himself. One of the first things Nelson Mandela, his smile is so bright, it's like lighting up my whole room and all of my vision. One of the first things he said to me was, the questions people have to ask themselves is, who are you and what do you believe? He then went on to say, until you know the answers to those questions, you cannot help this cause or any other. You first have to stare yourself in the mirror and see yourself for who you truly are. He's saying that we have it too easy. This isn't the first time we've heard this month. You know, a lot of the leaders have said that. We lack struggle. And yes, the struggle is still alive and racism is still real. But for a lot of us, it doesn't affect us enough for us to actually stand up and take change. He's saying it's too comfortable. He's saying that although myself and people from the past fought for change, we didn't fight it so that you could stop fighting for change. We fought it so that the fight would be a little bit easier. And he's saying, life today is incredible. Yes, there is still oppression. Yes, there is still racism. These things are very much still alive, but you are very much more now in a privileged position to make change. I have to put this very sensitively, but he is saying that you will not make change by coming from a place of oppression. And he wants to say that recognize your power. Take the attention off of the oppression. He's not saying don't recognize the oppression. I'm trying to explain what he's saying to me, and I do get it, but I just hope I'm articulating it well. He's saying that you need to highlight your power rather than highlighting what you don't have. Nelson Mandela's message is really about not giving up. He's saying that too much nowadays we give up too easily. We give up before the fight's even taken place. And that's the most important bit. That's the bit when we need to be most present. It's the bit before the fight where we need the planning and the strategy. And he's not just talking about protest. He's not just talking about, you know, fighting against oppression. He's talking about in your own personal life. He's talking about the own individual battles that we face as people. We're so quick to focus on how victimized we are and what we don't have and how we are lacking. But by doing that, we remove our strength and our power. He's laughing. His laugh is so infectious. And he's just saying, people are powerful. People are strong. People have intelligence. We have the capacity to hold information. Look at us. Do you see yourself? And this is where he's coming back to this wanting to remember who you are. Do you go about your day every day labeling yourself as fat or skinny, ugly or pretty, employed or unemployed, rich or poor. He is saying you are not the labels in which you confine yourself to. You are more than that. You are a consciousness here on planet Earth having a human experience. He's pointing his finger and saying, when you remember that, when you remember who you are unstoppable. He's now talking about the power and the people above and the authority and the oppressors and the government. He's saying it is their job to suppress you. He's laughing and he's saying the problem with people is they make it so easy to be suppressed because they play into this victimized state of lack and of I don't have enough. Little do they know, just by being here on earth, with all your abilities and all your capabilities as a human being, just by being here, doing nothing, just standing or sitting where you are right now, you are enough and you have enough. He's laughing. He just keeps laughing after everything. He's saying, I really wish people knew that. I really wish people knew that when they say they're suppressing us, they're giving energy to that cause. He's saying that if you listen to my election speeches, you'll see that I spoke more about coming to power than I did about being suppressed. Because what you pay attention to grows. And that is so important. People need to be aware that protesting is not just in action, it's in energy. Approach this with good energy. Remember who you are. Come to the protests with good intention, with good energy. Write to your council members with good intention, with good energy. Because remember that you are energy. And what you pay attention to grows. He really wants people to realise that you are power, even if someone else says you are not. Because by believing into the belief of someone else and by begging them to basically give you back your power, you are giving your power away. He's saying that's the first part. That's the remembering who you are. The second is, what do you believe? Because it's all well and good to want something, but it's a different story to believe you can have it, to believe it is possible, to believe in change. He's saying who you are is what shows up. Who you are is who shows up. But what you believe is the fuel that gets you going. If you don't have the strong belief that change is possible, if you don't have the strong belief that things can change, then don't show up. And that is why he's saying it's so important to gather that within yourself first before you try and show up for anything else. It's important to know who you are in your own life, what beliefs you hold in your own life, and then you can show up to fight for the cause. But until you know the answers to those questions, you cannot help this cause or any other. You first have to stare yourself in the mirror and see yourself for who you truly are. Change has been coming for a long time. He's saying we are right on the brisk of something new internationally. He's talking about a brand new organisation being put together with different countries in the world. He's saying, I know there's already different types of communities, but he's saying there is a brand new organisation that is going to come into place in the next few years. It's going to be for the better, but he's giving me this kind of vision of things rocking back and forth. So at the moment, it's like we're playing, I think someone else mentioned this as well, we're playing tug of war. So we're getting goodness and we're pulling it back, and then the evil energy is pulling it back, and it's like this constant tug of war. And that's why everything feels rocky and feels rough right now. But he's saying it is coming to an end and change is coming, and there is a brand new, not a party, he's saying, because it's international countries from people all across the world, leaders from all across the world, that are going to come together to create a new kind of government, I guess, that runs the whole world. But he's saying we need that. We don't need countries to be on different pages. He's saying as a world, as a planet Earth, we need to all be on the same page. There's still so much segregation, not just in individual countries, but on this planet. Countries are segregated. The West is segregated from the East, and the North is segregated from the South, and there's countries like Ireland and Korea that are segregated in themselves, and there's all this segregation that, again, you must remember who you are. Because we're not separate. We were never meant to be separate. No matter where you were born, no matter what continent you were born in, these are all self-constructs made up by man. There's no such thing as different countries, different continents, different places. There's only one place, Earth. And people should be able to move freely. People should be able to go where they want to go. People should be able to be who they want to be without all of these laws and suppressions put upon them. But at the moment it is not so. So we must keep fighting. But change is coming, and you can contribute too if you just remember who you are and know what you believe. I do hope you enjoyed this reading for Nelson Mandela. I do hope you've enjoyed all the readings that have taken place over the month of June and the beginning of July. Again, if you haven't watched them all, I really would recommend going back and watching them. There's a lot of information to be gained, a lot of insightfulness to be gained as well. Please do leave some love in the comments for Nelson Mandela, and I will see you soon for another reading. Bye, lovelies.